Who has been the most shocking so far in the NBA playoffs? Did Bronny James really earn a spot to showcase his talents at the Combine? And everybody was fumbling this week. We might have our first three-way tie. I'm leaning more towards Pat Bev, though. But that's all next on this week's episode of The Fumble.
Welcome to The Fumble. I'm Rodney Ricard. We got Samaria Terry in the building. And Samaria, I got one thing and one thing only to say to you right now. They not like us. They not like us. They not like... Hey, man, what a week in rap. How you feeling, beloved?
I feel better than Drake.
You know,
I feel pretty good.
Yeah. The boy sounds a little depressed, out and down in the dumps, according to his last record. But we want to talk about sports right now. Let's get into our first story of the day. Let's go.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. Sunday is the start of the NBA Draft Combine. Right now, 78 players were invited, including LeBron James Jr., which of course caused quite the stir on social media. Bronny averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and just 2 assists last season for USC. James declared for the NBA draft, but elected to retain his college eligibility. Should Bronny have gotten a shot over others, Rodney?
In my opinion, absolutely. The idea is that LeBron James Jr., Bronny James, is benefiting from nepotism. And as a father, as a black person in this country, you will never hear me complain about black people employing nepotism in order to advance the lives of their children. If LeBron James cannot leverage his success to help his child, then we have a problem. Other communities do this. We don't say anything about the lawyer who owns his law firm, who gives his son a job. So I don't want to hear about LeBron James Jr., Bronny James, not being someone who should have been selected to go to the Combine. It's just, it doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah, I can see that. I think for me, he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. In a way, it's if he gets this opportunity to go to the draft combine, he gets a shot in the NBA, someone takes a chance and drafts him. Like you just said, he's a nepo baby. Everyone is going to say, you really didn't get this on your own. You didn't earn this. You didn't put up what you should have put up. You didn't put up the numbers that other players were putting up. If he says, I'm going to go back and do one more year of college ball, then people are going to say, well, you're really not that good. You're not as good as your dad. You're not even as good as your brother. That's why I'm like, I just kind of hate that he's in this tough situation. I think at the end of the day, he has to do what's best for him and what he's going to be comfortable and feel good about moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think that there are many players in college basketball last year who actually had open heart surgery and then had to come back. I think that the things that Bronny James went through, right, didn't allow him to maybe have the best possible season. USC as a whole had a terrible season, but for him specifically, coming back from that open heart surgery to even be on the court, I think shows a level of mental fortitude that any team in the NBA could benefit from. Beyond that, in high school, in the All-American game, we saw LeBron James Jr. dominate and play basketball in a way that implied he has some skills that are extremely transferable to the NBA. I believe he's going to be a phenomenal defensive stopper. His outside shot is far better than his father at this age in his life. I think he has some real skills that'll translate to the NBA. And sometimes, man, we see it all the time. There are some kids who are better suited for the pro style game than they are for college. And I truly believe that might be the case for Bronny James.
Okay, and listen, I'm taking your word for it. You're the basketball guy. I just don't want to see him where he needed another year of college ball, go to the pros, and then maybe it doesn't translate as quickly enough, and then people are saying whatever they want to say.
Yeah, but his timeline is his timeline. I worked for the Washington Wizards for 5 years, right? There was a coach by the name of Flip Saunders. Flip Saunders had a son named Ryan Saunders. Ryan Saunders ultimately became the youngest head coach in the NBA ever, right? And you don't think he benefited from his father being Flip Saunders? Rest in peace to Flip Saunders. From all accounts, just a great guy. But Ryan Saunders benefited from his father's ascension in the professional coaching ranks. So I don't want to hear Andy Reid's sons. You know what I mean? Like, there are tons of fathers who assist their children in creating careers in professional sports. I do not want to hear any complaints about when black people do it. And that's just how I feel. I'm standing on business.
I don't know if you're going to hear the complaints from people saying that he may not have gotten or shouldn't have gotten a shot. I think that people are saying that maybe he's not ready. Even when Carmelo said that his son Cayenne is going to take as long as he needs at the college level before he just jumps up, because he doesn't want him to go to a place that he's not ready. And now,
Samaria,
again, you have been ready. All eyes are going to be on Bronny If he
Samaria, you
goes
have
to
been
the
a
NBA,
professional.
all
You've been a professional, right? You know that the best place to learn a job is at the job. Like that's just what it is. He'll be a better pro because he's gonna be in an environment that's developing professional athletes, and that's just what it is. Y'all, let us know your thoughts on Bronny James. Do you feel like he's deserving of his shot to be a part of the NBA Combine this upcoming Sunday? Now is a great time to talk about some NBA basketball because the playoffs have been absolutely electric so far, but there are two stories that are far and away the most scintillating, in my opinion. Anthony Edwards' ascension as the future face of the NBA has the Wolves on the brink of eliminating recently announced MVP Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. And in New York, Jalen Brunson may actually be the best player of the entire playoffs so far, and that is really hard for me to say as a Knick hater. Samaria, which story is more of a shock to you, Jalen and the Knicks or Ant Edwards and the Wolves?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Anthony Edwards. I've been following him since he was at Georgia. He's an Atlanta kid just like myself. I
Okay.
mean, just look at the numbers. 43 points in game 1, 27 in game 2. He was averaging about 31 points in the semifinals or the first round of the playoffs. And if you look at the numbers, they're almost identical to Jalen Brunson's, right? But I think you have to kind of lean more towards the way that the Timberwolves are beating the brakes off their opponents.
That
That's why I'm going to give it to Anthony Edwards over Brunson. And listen, I'm not knocking anything. I know you don't like the Knicks. I'm not knocking anything on the Knicks. And I told you last episode that I felt like they were really hungry. They're really playing their best ball right now. But the more exciting team to watch, I think, are the Timberwolves.
Yeah, the Timberwolves are doing things defensively that I haven't seen a team do since the '04 Pistons. I mean, they have completely frustrated the Denver Nuggets, who look so poised, so composed. I used to say the Nuggets were like the Tom Brady of the NBA. They just felt like they always had this extra gear when it mattered most, and the Timberwolves have completely neutralized that. But for me, growing up a Knick hater, being a Knick hater, I gotta go Jalen Brunson here because that Knicks roster is not that good. Like it's just not. There's not a whole bunch of talent. There's not a lot of depth. They really play like 6 or 7 people for an entire game. I don't understand how they're able to sustain the physical exertion that they expend night in and night out. And the way that Jalen Brunson has been playing, I mean, he is hitting shots that just defy logic. I saw him at Villanova. You know, he was born in New Jersey, so I'm always going to give credence to anybody from Jersey. I just it's a miracle, and the energy that he has created in the Garden by virtue of his play, I think, is the story of the playoffs because the Knicks for so long have been swimming in ineptitude, and he has that city absolutely ablaze, even unlike the way that Carmelo Anthony did when he was donning a Knicks jersey.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's been amazing to see Madison Square Garden erupt in the way that it has. But again, I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards because I just feel like, just like what you just said about Jalen Brunson, his shots, I mean, them putting him side by side with Jordan, I'm like, okay, this dude is doing stuff. Like, are we playing 2K? I'm not really sure what we're doing here, but
Yeah. You know
listen,
what? I
Anthony
got
Edwards
to
looks great.
I got to shout out the New Jersey Timberwolves, by the way, because they have 3 players from Jersey: Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid, and Kyle Anderson, right? Who are all
Oh,
very
yes.
important in their rotation. So those are the New Jersey Timberwolves to me. And I always got to give love to the hometown. But Ant has been absolutely incredible, and I look forward to him potentially winning a championship and seeing him become legitimately the face of the NBA. I really feel like he has taken away the title of the most electric athlete in sports from Ja Morant. And what a phenomenal opportunity for the NBA to attach itself to a rising superstar. Like, I just couldn't be more excited
Yeah.
about his potential.
I was literally going to bring up Ja because I'm like, this is what happens when you play basketball and you stay out of trouble.
Yeah,
This is
man.
what happens. This could be the Memphis Grizzlies, but
It,
it is what it is.
yeah, man. Y'all let us know your thoughts. What's the most exciting storyline so far in this year's NBA playoffs?
Okay, Rodney, this one is a funny one. Austin Rivers decided that he was going to get on Pat McAfee's show and say that he could take 30 NBA players and throw them into the NFL, but you cannot take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA. JJ Watt responded saying that Rivers right now wasn't playing in either, so go ahead and try it. This, of course, has sparked a huge debate in the media. Rodney, is Austin Rivers right in this really weird take?
1000% he is correct. There are Hall of Fame football players who did not play a down of collegiate football. but we're college basketball athletes, right? It's basketball is such a more of a fluid sport. And in these times, especially with these very light NFL rules that prohibit you from hitting players, taking their knees out, there's just so much more translatable skills from basketball to football than the opposite direction. I mean, I have a list here, right? You got Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham, Julius Peppers was always a football player, but going to throw him on the list. Darren Fells, Tony Gonzalez. There's a kid, Quentin Rollins, right? He played 4 years of college basketball in the MAC conference. In his 1 year of playing college football, he was the defensive player of the year in the conference, went on to play in the NFL. I'm just saying the better, more natural fluid athlete is in basketball, and that translates to the NFL time and time again. What? Talk to me.
Let's talk about flopping. The way that these NBA players are, oh my God, they fall on the floor, you tap them, you think they're going to get hit lights out on a football field?
Wait, have you seen Patrick Mahomes back there? Have you seen some of the times that he's been tapped and he flies to try to get roughing the passer?
We're talking about, I think that the NBA players that would go to football would probably be like tight ends, because isn't that what LeBron played?
He was a receiver. He was a receiver, but he would have transitioned to tight end. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Listen, sir. I can see them doing it, but the way that they don't want to be touched on the basketball court, they would get like lit up on a football field.
Nobody is lighting anybody up anymore in football. That is not unless you're a running back, unless you're a D lineman, like sure, but by and large, we're talking about the NBA athletes, basketball athletes going and playing positions that are going to be on the outer banks of a football field. We're talking about receivers, we're talking about tight ends. You can't just blindside and blast a guy coming across the middle anymore. They got rid of that. You can't even touch a receiver down the field. You can't even hand fight anymore. So of course, people who are naturally athletically gifted are going to have the advantage on the outside. It's just like when you have those track guys who transition into football and they take off downfield. Of course, if I can run my full 4.2 speed without being touched, I'm a break daylight. That's just what it is.
So you're trying to say that you don't feel like there are any football players that can translate to basketball, because I feel like we've seen it. We've seen it.
No. So the thing with basketball,
CJ Stroud was a basketball player.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And he was really good. He was really good. I give credit to that, right? But the fact of the matter is, like, what position is CJ Stroud playing in an NBA game? He's the size of an NBA point guard. You mean to tell me that he's going to be able to compete with Ja Morant, with Jalen Brunson, with the Kyrie Irving? Like, the level of skill that it takes to time and time again put the ball in the basket is just far different than dropping back maybe 6% of the time and delivering a pass downfield. I give respect to the fact you have to read defenses and quarterbacks are the most difficult position to play in the entire game of sports. But there's no way that you can say because a guy is athletic, he can play basketball. The game is just so much more nuanced. But in football, there are guys whose position literally says athlete. It's ATH next to their name.
Okay, but that means that they can play multiple positions, so they are more valuable. But what I'm saying is, I think that the only difference is the height situation. You have guys that are going to be 6'9" trying to play football, so that's weird. Just on the other end, shorter guys tend to play football. They're more stockier. They would not be able to be successful in the National Basketball Association. I understand that, but I'm saying I think that the athleticism is they're still neck and neck, I think.
No, I think there's a lot more fluid athletes in basketball, right? The muscle definition is different. NFL players are bulky. At times they can be clunky. And that's not all, of course. Nothing I'm saying is applicable to all NFL athletes, but by and large, the physical structure of NBA players is just more translatable to a wide variety of sports. Let us know what you think. Who's better suited to cross over into another sport? Is it NBA players to the NFL or NFL players to the NBA? Okay, so tough call for Fumble of the Week this week, Samaria. It's like, do you go Rashee Rice for once again being in the headlines, this time for fighting a photographer in the club? Nah, not really, because you kind of expect that from Rashee Rice at this point, right? Do you go Drake for getting walked down by Kendrick Lamar in a way that hip-hop has never before seen? On the deadest of homies, I think They Not Like Us is legitimately going to be Joe Biden's campaign trail song of choice. But nah, because truthfully, I expected Kendrick Lamar to come out victorious in their little squabble. However, what I did not expect was for a man as seemingly well thought out as Patrick Beverley appears to be at times on his podcast to go full Dennis Rodman and throw a ball at a female fan, for which Indiana police are now investigating him. Now, to make matters worse, he followed that up by disrespecting ESPN reporter Melinda Adams in a post-game locker room interview, telling her to get her microphone out of his face because she is not subscribed to his podcast. Listen, I have always enjoyed Pat Bev's antics because I've always respected what it took for him to make it to the league. Outside, of course, the playoffs back in 2021 when he shoved CP3, and then that time he took out Westbrook's knee in the playoffs back in 2013. But this particular, or these particular incidents rather, changed the way I view him. And I can't lie, I view him now as more of a risk. I mean, he risked potentially injuring a fan because she allegedly simply said 1, 2, 3 Cancun. And then his mistreatment of Melinda Williams is beyond risky because as athletes continue to expand their platforms outside of sports, they are going to not just want, but absolutely need for league approval on getting event access or even using video components to enhance their own productions. Not to mention, Samaria, the implications of players prioritizing their own content over the league's media partners. So, Pat Bev, you get the Fumble of the Week this week for simply doing too much and being a liability. Samaria, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I agree. I think all three of them, first off, I don't know what you all are doing this week, but I will say number one has to be Patrick Beverly.
No.
This is like a person that is just unraveling. To me, it seems like Pat Bev never had the career that he thought he should have had in the NBA. He told Steph Curry in 2019, y'all are done. I'm about to take over. He never took over. He's been from team to team to team to team. Nobody wants to deal with him. He's not productive. He's not doing anything. He's sitting on the bench. He was sitting on the bench when he had this altercation. And then on top of that, for you to disrespect a reporter, I've been a reporter for 9 years, been in these locker rooms. I understand that it's difficult when a team loses and you're emotional and you have these things that are going on in your head, whatever. But for you to say that a person can't interview you because they haven't subscribed to your whack podcast.
It's a good podcast. I ain't gonna let you. It's a good
whack.
podcast.
He is whack. He's
Yeah.
whack now.
I mean, listen.
You're
Go ahead.
done. His time in the NBA is over. You need to just go and focus on that podcast because that's all you have.
Wow, you think you think these are things that are gonna get him kicked out of the NBA
Yeah, nobody's gonna
or
want
blackballed? Wow,
him. You
that
just said that
okay.
he's a risk and he's a liability. Nobody wants. Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he definitely has the ability with these acts and actions to potentially mess up how Draymond Green moves in the podcast space, right? Like you have to understand the business of not just the NBA now, but also the business of your content. Just not well thought out, man. And this is a guy who's had to fight so much to get a shot to be in the league. I mean, he was basically playing basketball over in Siberia. Like he was nowhere, and he fought for every inch for the opportunity to play in the NBA, and I respect that. But sometimes, man, our old selves show up when we're frustrated. I want to give him grace, to make a mistake and potentially come back from it. I think that he has shown a high level of contrition, but you're still gonna get the Fumble of the Week fan because you was tripping.
No, and I really hate that because, like you just mentioned, he does have this unconventional route to the NBA, and to see it kind of end this way is just kind of heartbreaking. But what was really funny is Draymond Green trying to check, Pat Bev, like, sir, you of all people need to keep your mouth closed. The message was
See,
great, but
no.
the messenger,
What
the
do y'all be want?
messenger
No.
was terrible.
What do y'all want? Do you want somebody who's been through like real life things and real life experiences to be the people to talk to people that are maybe exhibiting the same behaviors that got them in trouble? Or do you want somebody with a completely clean jacket and slate who's never experienced any of those things, who may not have the emotional temperament as the people who are struggling to control their own emotions? I don't want to hear from somebody whose heart doesn't beat the same way as Pat Bev's. I do want to hear from Draymond Green. I do want Draymond Green to be the guy to help correct some of his behaviors because they have a similar wiring. So I disagree with you in that regard.
But how can you ask Draymond to do something that he's not doing himself?
It doesn't.
Draymond Green he's not bettering himself. I would see
Why?
if Draymond had a few rough patches, and in the last 2 seasons, he's been like a choir boy. He's not.
Okay,
He's
but
still putting up these antics. How can you then get on your podcast and try to check Pat Bev when you're still doing the same thing? And if the Warriors were still playing, Draymond would still be cutting up. he would still be doing random stuff to get
All right.
himself suspended.
Okay, listen, we can agree to
You know I'm
disagree.
right.
We can agree to disagree. Let us know your thoughts on our fumble of the week. Pat Bev, do you feel like it is deserving, or could I have gone, or should we have gone Drake or Rashi Rice? We appreciate it.
All right, that is all for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Fumble. Make sure to subscribe to The Fumble and at The Fumble Sports on our social media platforms. Of course, we deliver the latest in sports every day on our YouTube page with Jackie Ray, and every Friday right here at The Fumble with myself, Samaria Terry, and my co-host, Rodney Rakai.